Holy jeez. The ethics committee. I have been talking about this for weeks. They have not had a meeting since 2019. And I don't know about you, but it does feel like they are listening now. Because I'm not even sure if they would have had a meeting if I did not talk so much trash about them. And it's not just me, it's all of you too. It's all those people out there in YouTube land, all of my subscribers, everybody that I love that watches my videos, even of how lame and boring they might be, because that means they're getting the point. We wanted them to know that we're watching, and we're always going to be watching, and we are always going to want transparency. So, for everybody out there, thank you for watching, and let's see how this whole meeting goes.
Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Ethics Committee for Thursday, February 22nd. Before we begin, I'll have my counselors introduce themselves, starting to the left.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Josh Bain, representing District 21 on the southwest side.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Carlos Perkins, representing District 6.
Doctor. He's a doctor of ministry. And every time he says, I'm Dr. Carlos Perkins, I'm going to be mentioning that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Frank Mascari, District 19, Southeast Side.
Thank you all. I'm Counselor Jessica McCormick, District 16, West Side. So just a little overview. This is the first time the Ethics Committee has met since last time was 2019. And so we don't meet very often. So just an overview for anybody watching at home. The Ethics Committee of the Council reviews our ordinance and periodically will suggest changes as needed. And we handle ethics violations and complaints through the council.
And she's wearing sunglasses again.
Proposals tonight.
This slob.
If I can have consensus, I would ask to table and postpone proposal number 42. Thank you.
Maybe we should have a proposal that you shouldn't be wearing sunglasses on top of your head if you are a politician.
So the two proposals we have in front of us.
Damn it,
proposal number
Fiona.
41 is to confirm the mayor's appointment of Shane Hatchett to the Ethics Commission. And Mr. Hatchett, if you could come up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you choose to participate. Yes, that's fine. Yes, thank you.
Before we begin, I wanted to mention that half of the committee is missing. There's supposed to be 4 more people part of this committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee rather. My name is Shane Hatchett, and I have been in Indianapolis for almost 2 decades now. I currently reside in Councilor Barth's district, and this is a reappointment for me, so similar to Paige, I am up for reappointment. I have previously worked at the state of Indiana in a multitude of agencies. Most recently, though, I've stepped down from my role in state government and now am providing consulting services in the health and human services space. I have a bachelor's in public administration, a master's in technology focusing on leadership and organization development, and I'm in the process of completing my doctorate in public health, which is part of the reason I stepped out.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments from my council colleagues? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you live in Garfield? Is that what you said?
No, I live in Butler, Tarkington. And
I just know you said in the Garfield
district.
area. That's my area. And so you've been on this appointed to this before in the past. What have you ran into?
We, as a commission, have only convened a couple of times. For one of the meetings, we thought there might have been some folks who had not completed their ethics training, but that was resolved prior to the meeting. And then the meeting before that was just an organization meeting to kind of set things up and introduce ourselves. So we've not really had opportunity for a significant amount of business before us yet.
Mm-hmm. So you're like us, so the ethics doesn't meet very often. You've only met one time. It's just over the rules. So, all right, thank you.
Questions, comments from any other councilors? Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Before we go to entertain a motion, I want to mention, so I have my MS in Tech from, I did
Hey, Michael
engineering
Paul
ed,
showed
so,
excellent.
so yeah, so very good, so wonderful for that. And if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion.
So move with a due pass resolution to the full council.
Second.
Perfect. Move has been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very
Madam
much. Thank you for your commitment to serve. So we have, oh, Counselor, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Paul Hart, District 20.
Okay, so we are going to move on. We have tabled proposal number 42. We're going to move on to proposal number 43 that confirms the mayor appointments of Paige Phelps to the Ethics Commission. Paige, if you could come up and tell us some of your background and why you want the appointment.
Good evening, and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Paige Phelps. I'm from Indianapolis, and I've lived in Indianapolis since 1987, 86? No, 88, when I started law school, and I've been here since then. I work
Yeesh.
for the Indiana State Bar Association. I've been with the bar for about 30 years. I reside in Geist. Nick Roberts is my councilman.
Gross.
I'm married. My husband is at Barnes and Thornburg, and we have 5 children. Our oldest are twins at seniors at IU and Notre Dame. Got a freshman at IU, and
No one cares.
junior at Chittard, and an 8th grader at St. Simon. So, I'm not done. Got a while.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments from my counselors?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions from the public?
Oh, man.
Seeing
Our
none,
government.
I will entertain a motion.
So move with a due pass resolution to the full council.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. So the ayes have it. Thank you very much
Thank you,
for your
and thank you
commitment to
for all
serve
of
as
your
well.
services
Thank
also.
you.
Whoopee.
So that does conclude the proposal business. Under new business, we do have, you all have in front of you suggestions that I will give the floor to Councilor Bain to mention as part of our responsibilities for the Ethics Committee. We review and suggest changes for the statement, the ethics statement that we have to follow. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate your time and consideration for these changes. Also want to thank Council Pierce for her work on getting this drafted and everything. So there's 3 key bullet points, 2 sections that would be added. I'll just note that this document that we have here is clearly not all of the ethics code. This just contains the 2 additional sections that I would put forward for consideration. And again, we wouldn't be voting on this tonight. It's more of just bringing this up for discussion, open to input on how we can make it better, ways that we can increase transparency. But essentially, you'll see that Section 3, looking at the document, the changes are the red letters. So it adds that the amount of funds that each counselor is received from the city of Indianapolis rounded to the nearest 10,000, along with the date of hire from each employer. So every year we fill out those ethics disclosure forms, and this would just be one additional question that is on that form. And then the other part that we would be adding is making sure that these ethics disclosure forms are posted on our council website. It's something that the city used to do up until 2007, and then for some reason, we just stopped. Now, it's interesting, you look at what federal elected officials do, all their ethics disclosures are published online, or at the State House, all of the state legislators, their statements of economic interest, and
It's true. It's green. I know. I just filed.
ethics disclosures are posted online. So I just thought it was really interesting that ours worked. So I think it would be best just to codify that. So I think that portion's pretty simple. Where we post that on the council website, I'd be open to suggestions, whether that's on our bio page or if we just have a separate section that's on ethics disclosures. But would be open to any suggestions.
Yo, this is so important. I don't think any of you, I don't know how many of you know like how important and how big of a deal this is right now. I heard this was coming down the pipe, but I didn't think it was actually going to happen. And I'm really curious of how many people are not going to be a fan of this. And here's the reason why. Back in like 2021, possibly even 2020, I had emailed Krista Carlino about Leroy Robinson. And I had sent out a mass email to a bunch of people. And basically what it was is that, don't you think it's weird, or is it an ethics violation? By the way, I sent it out to Leroy too, about Leroy works for CICF, and they get a bunch of city money, and they also give out some money for some of the programs. But don't you think it's weird that a guy who's on the city council that approves money going to certain institutions works for them? Seems like it's an ethics violation. And what Carlino had told me was, well, if the ethics board does not have a problem with it, then that means everything's okay. And of course, you know, now that I've been doing these videos and I've been watching long enough, like, well, the ethics committee hasn't even had a meeting since 2019. So of course they're probably saying, oh no, everything's just fine. So this is very important because I think Lakeisha Jackson, she works for a nonprofit. I don't know which one, but what's the other one? Maggie Lewis, she works for the Boys and Girls Club. And if you remember, Brian Mears had a program, it was a juvenile program, where basically they would expunge your record and you would get a 1-year free Boys and Girls membership, which happens to be that Maggie Lewis is the president of the Indianapolis Boys and Girls Club. And then, don't you think it's kind of weird that Brian Mears set up this whole thing that the city was buying all these memberships for the Boys and Girls Club of Indianapolis, even though Maggie Lewis at one point was the vice president of the city council, and she was getting all this extra money, maybe not her personally, but her organization that she runs. So this is really important. Really happy to see that somebody is stepping up in the GOP to have more transparency of what's not only going on with the city council, but just local government in general. So kudos to Josh Bain. I really like this guy. He's one of only like 2 people that actually reply back to me. I wish more of the councilors were more like him. Of course, there's only 5 Republican city council members, and I'm not sure what the other 4 are doing. Michael Paul Hart is okay for the most part. But Josh Bain is really starting to become one of my favorite politicians in local government.
Yeah, so as Councilor Bain mentioned, we're just bringing this up tonight. This is the first meeting that we've had, so we can look over it. We can have a discussion tonight, but we'll work with council and the administration to make sure that we're crossing and dotting and checking everything that we need to, and we will reconvene in a month for the other commission's appointments that we can discuss further then. If we have any comments now, the only thing ahead of that is the ethics disclosures, they were posted. Other elected officials in the city county enterprise do already have theirs posted. Ours are available only by FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests, because they're not on the website. So this is just going back to something that the other entities do around the administration and in the city enterprise, as well as what used to be done. So there's precedent for that.
To play devil's advocate, and on the flip side of this, that means that everybody would know where you work at, which you fill out that form anyway as part of you running for office. You have to put of where you work because of what the whole thing proposes ethics violations. But for some of us, including yours truly, we don't exactly want people knowing where we work. But I think what this is saying is that if you have money being sent to the place that you work at, then it needs to be disclosed. If you don't, then it doesn't. Just saying.
Do we know why the decision was made not to post the counselors on?
Yeah, so there's not really a good solid reason. It was in 2007-ish, 2008-ish, so there was a change in the mayor's office at that time, And I've been told the relationship between the council and the mayor's office wasn't the best at that point. So it may have just been one of those
Why is she
things
smiling?
where people just started doing the bare minimum of what's accepted, or with turnover in the council office, different clerks come in and out, it may have just been lost on someone's job responsibility.
Yeah,
But there's no solid reason
Yeah,
as to why.
so there's no documentation. It just seems like that maybe with the administration change and staff changing, that it just kind of was missed and just never was noticed until recently. So, Councilman Mascari.
Thank you. I guess my question is the number 3, the amount of funds for each counselor and employees, this and that, rounded off $10,000. I've never put any amount on anything because I don't take any funds get any funds from Indianapolis. I guess this would pertain to some of the counselors that actually receive money from the city?
If you did receive funds from the city, yes, you would need to disclose that. If you work in the private sector, like for me, I work at a men's clothing company. The city of Indianapolis is not buying money, so it would be very easy for me to write 0 on there.
Right.
And yeah, it wouldn't be any additional work for me. And
As it sits right now, I'd say John Doe, his company receives money from the city. He has to disclose it right now?
So you do not have to right now. So let's say if an example would be is if I work for Milestone, who receives contracts from the city of Indianapolis to do public works projects, I think that is something that would be worthwhile to disclose on an ethics forum.
I know there's several counselors that work for, nonprofits, so they would have to disclose?
Yeah, you would have to disclose, and something that we're working on is kind of fine-tuning what exactly it means by, what you received, because did you get a fee waived? Or were you a pass-through agency, like where you didn't actually receive money, but you were handling money that was a federal grant that you just passed through?
Which is funny, which is very funny because America's Structure Point helped write the grants to try and get some federal money, and they were the ones that did the study for Indigo on the traffic situation for the red line, and they talked about how they, speeds are actually faster now, but we're having less accidents, which, it's kind of weird. It's like, don't you think it's a little weird and conflict of interest that the people that are helping you write the grants to get more money will also be using the money for engineering on the project? Huh?
Let's take the Arts Council, for instance. If I worked at the Arts Council, you do get a service fee for that. So would we only quote what the service fee is that we receive from the Arts Council, or that the Arts Council receives from us, or would we disclose everything that was on there? And talking over with Council Pierce, we thought of the idea of having a form that us counselors could just give to our employers, have them fill out. Because, again, all that's just going to be a number on a spreadsheet for a lot of these nonprofits and other companies. So, again, the goal here is for it to be simple. We don't want to get convoluted on this. I think, maybe if there's a sentence or two that you can attach where this is being asked on the ethics form, that could also be really helpful to where you can just add some context into what exactly this is.
So yeah, so we mentioned the form from the employer, and so for different entities and sizes. So my employer, for example, does receive money from the city, but none within my department, because I have a large, I work for a large, over 10,000 employer, right? So, so there would be varying. So I think that's between now and the next meeting we have to kind of hash out and ask those questions. So this is the first opportunity, right, to look at this, to have it. And we'll continue these conversations. We talked about the form for the employer. Counselor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is new to me, so I'm just, the whole, changing the language. Curious of the process. I mean, so we introduced tonight and then,
No.
or not even introduced, but yeah, Joe, if you could just
Right,
walk me
so
through
this
it.
is, yeah, so this is, there's no introduction. So as part of our task as being the ethics committee, we have to review our ethics protocols, the ethics ordinance, and then by March 31st, we have to say whether as a committee we want to suggest or discuss any changes, or if we're okay with the way it is. And so since the committee hasn't met before, it's all been, the last few years it's been via email. Since we were going to be in person, I said if anybody had suggestions, we could begin the discussion tonight. And again, that helps with that openness and transparency since we're doing it in front of, I guess on Channel 16. So it's not even introduced. This is just like new business table discussion almost, right? So this is just a discussion just to have, we will continue it. Us as a committee continue having that conversation to make sure we get everything. So, and when we meet again, we might not even be ready. The earliest I think we decided that probably it would be introduced for us to vote on is April. So given the timing that we're at now, and we don't, our deadline to report if we want to suggest changes is the 31st of March. We don't have to have them done by the 31st of March. We just need to say whether we're going to have those conversations this calendar year.
Yeah.
Is that correct, council?
That's correct, and if anybody else has changes now that he's opened the door.
Pandora's box.
Yes, and just for clarification, I do believe that you normally have to disclose if you have an employer that has, if you have an interest, if your employer has an interest, a contractual interest in
You
with the
do.
city. You just don't ever have to say the dollar amount.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference, I think, now, is that we're gonna add that on there.
And I think, so it's currently $5,000, I think,
Probably zero.
is what on our current ordinance
So
form?
it says for the, if your spouse or your child has over 5,000, but if
Okay.
you have a contractual interest, you've got to disclose
Right.
that. And it's just, my company has a contract with the city.
Yeah,
or mine.
so, and this would be in some sort of whatever we predetermine as that range of dollar amounts, I think, too.
Should be any.
My question would be, what about comparisons to other cities our size? Does everyone in the city
cares?
has to disclose the same things? Do they do it too? The state senators, state reps, do they have to say, my wife works at Milestone, or someone like that? Do they have to do it?
Yeah, so they have what's called statement of economic interest. I want to go back and look at it again before I give you a definite answer, but they do have to put in what they have investments in and, whether or not they are engaged in contracts with the government.
Okay.
And this is very true because I just filled one out a few weeks ago. You have to do it in the and for the House, the one for the House, if you're running for House or you're running for Senate, it's a different room, but it's like this 4 or 5 page document that you have to fill out. And obviously, I just breezed right through it because I'm just some blue collar schlub that's not involved with any of this stuff. I cannot be bought.
And we might be able to utilize what they have for our model, too. So, yeah, Councilor Perkins, did you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to even add on, just as like, a business owner, there's new federal guidelines went into play this year where if you own any piece of an LLC, regardless if you're an elected official or not, you actually have to report that now to the, I believe it was the Department of Homeland Security. Or it was a federal agency now requires
Really?
for this very similar reasons, right? Even non-elected officials, but to understand if you are an elected official, right, that now it's publicly, right, documented that you own, and the purpose of that, I mean, different in context, but similar in the sense of that.
All kinds of
people are
foreign stuff.
required to file these forms, was to understand who as an individual are owning these shell companies. So that's why it was happening at the federal level. So, and I think the intent behind that was, again, more transparency, accountability just for all folks, but specifically ones who are taking the responsibility and oath like we have to be even more transparent.
Michael Paul Hart has some amazing hair.
So we will continue this conversation, and I look forward to that. And if there is no other new business, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
I like how McCormick has her merch on there, and she's making sure it says McCormick right in the front. But anyway, this is really important. This is amazing work by Josh Bain, and I think it should be more transparent because this is, like I said, this is the whole reason why I even started this channel, just so people understand of, I wouldn't say the corruption, but also the corruption, but most of how these handshakes and hand jobs work, especially from a guy that has ran for city council and is currently running for a state position. And just like I've gone through so many campaign reports in the last couple of years, and just the connections alone of not just who's giving money to the Democrats, but those same people that are giving money to the Republicans. the unions, the PACs, and you start seeing cross-pollination. You start seeing of unions that are giving certain people money, and then those proposals are getting through. For example, for those who don't know, I was on the news the other day because I gave a public testimony about this Wayne Township merger. And there's this guy that was apparently watching it live on the trustees' Facebook page, and this guy's like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I can disprove everything. So I went at it with him a few times. If you want to go onto the Facebook page and you want to take a gander, you go right ahead. Because at the end of it, he wasn't able to disprove anything. It was just his opinion, in which I was giving my public testimony, which is mostly my opinion too. But anybody who can read it between the lines, anybody that can see past the BS knows that these institutions are corrupt, and they're all just giving money so they get something back. That's how this whole game works. And the people that are easily corruptible are the ones that they get money and they do whatever their bidding is. So this is fantastic work. I absolutely love it. Let's keep it going. I'm hoping that this thing does go through. If it doesn't go through, I would love to see who says no on it, because then we know those people are compromised and we gotta expose them even more. So, until next time.